Hey guys, we keep talking about security. In the last lesson we talked a little bit about the validation and sanitization processes. Today we will move on to the practical part and explain what it is and when to use string escaping. Well, as I've already explained, escaping is a process that happens in the data output, while validation and sanitization happen in input. Usually you have to worry about this when you identify some information that can be displayed to the user. Actually, escaping isn't just about that, okay? It is used every time you have data output, which doesn't just mean the output you have on the screen. Let's think, for example, of a data returned by an API. The data represents the output you use in your application as an input. Do you understand? The return of the API is not directly displayed to the user on the screen, even so it is considered as an output. But I'm not going to complicate your lives too much, guys. In these classes, every time I refer to the output, I'll really be talking about the output on the screen, okay? It's because our theme is really going to have this kind of output. So, let's go. WordPress has a handful of escaping functions. We need to use these functions every time we have a type of output that is not static in our code. For example, let's go over to the homepage template file. Let's suppose the title text of each section were hard-coded. For example, something like this. This text here doesn't need to be escaped. It's because there's no way an attacker could intercept this piece of code, manipulate it and turn it into something else, for example, into malicious code. But our titles are not static. They are highly dynamic, remember? The control here is with the site owner using the customizer. And this piece of code stores the content of the customizer field in a variable, which is later stored in the database and displays it on the screen using this echo command. As I showed you in practice, in the first lesson about security, if someone somehow managed to intercept your code, he or she could make any kind of code run instead of the value we want. This technique is well known in the internet as cross-site scripting or XSS. And we don't want that, right? Another type of information that is considered as data output in the theme is translation. Yes, the translated strings are also considered as data outputs for the end user, of course. Well, in fact, there's also some controversy about the need to escape translation strings in themes and plugins. Most of the articles I've read on the subject suggest that you escape all types of fields, including the output of translated strings. However, it's not what I see when I have a look at how the native WordPress themes are coded. More on that on the next section of this course, okay? And of course, you'll be surprised with what I found out. For example, if I open the 404.php file from the 2019 theme, I don't see anything different than what we've done so far in this course. But this concern is to some extent understandable. It is not impossible that some attacker can manipulate the WordPress translation file, the YAML file, and inject malicious code into it. Well, it seems that unfortunately we cannot trust anyone, even our theme translators. What a pity, guys. But for every rule, there is an exception. If you cannot trust anyone anymore, try to trust at least in WordPress. The few exceptions are the WordPress functions that start with the word the, like the title, the content, the excerpt, the category. The absolute majority of these functions are already escaped in one way or another by WordPress. So there's no reason for you to reinvent the wheel, okay? WordPress has several escaping functions. Here on this documentation page, we have the main ones. They all start with the word ask underscore, like ask HTML, ask URL, ask JS, ask attrue, and ask text area. This one here, ask HTML, is used whenever you need to escape content that is inside HTML tags. But it can appear in other usage contexts as well. since it's the main WordPress escaping function. AskURL is used every time you need to escape content that is a URL, including those that are passed to the source src and href attributes. AskJS is used for inline JavaScript, and asAttr or sattr has to be used on all attributes of any HTML tag. Keeping in mind that it's only in cases where these attributes are dynamic, not static, okay? For example, here I'm passing the class in a dynamic and not static way. And the last one in the list is AskTextArea. This one is used for areas of text, those with more than one line used in HTML. Aside from these basic functions, we have versions of the escaping functions that can be used along with the translated text, which are these ones here. I don't know if you can see the pattern here, but it's simply the function askHTML or the function askAttr being passed along with translation functions. Here in this case, askHTML with double underscores. Here, askHTML with _e. AskHTML with _x. AskAttribute with double underscore. AskAttribute with _e. And AskAttribute with _x. Well, in the next lesson, we'll open some of our theme files and we'll see what we can do to start making the outputs more safe. So, until then, guys.